Ok. Entonces viene mi mamá. Tuve que darle vida un ratito.
For knockback state here, what I want to do is I want to grab the information from the enemy and I want to move its state into stagger. So in here, if enemy isn't null, then I want to grab the enemy script. So I'm going to say, let's do enemy.getComponent. The component I want to get is enemy, which will grab log, even though it's not an enemy script because it inherits from enemy. And I want to say dot current state equals enemy state dot stagger. And then when I'm ending the knockback in here in the coroutine, after we set their velocity back to 0, I'm going to reset their state. So I'm going to say enemy dot get component, and the component I want to get is the enemy script dot current state is equal to enemy state dot, I'm going to put it back into idle, even though it might need to go into walk. In the enemies, or in the log script itself, I'll have it automatically turn to walk if it needs to be. So I'm going to save that. So when we knock an enemy back, we're going to put it in the stagger state, and after a certain amount of time, we're going to reset it back to the idle state. Now in my log script here, in start, I want to have it be in idle. So I'm going to say current state is equal to enemy state dot idle.
Current state.
And then, oh yeah, this is something else I wanted to fix. So I'm moving my physics object in the update, and I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to change this from update to fixed update, so that it's only moving on the physics calls, which is roughly, I think, 30 times a second. I could be wrong. Okay, cool. So now, when we check our distance, if our distance is in between the chase radius and the attack radius, we're going to want to have to change our state. Now, since I'm going to be changing the state a lot, I'm going to make a new method for that. So my new method is going to be a private void change state, and I want to pass in a value. And the value I want to pass in is enemy state that I'm going to call new state. So in this change state method, what I want to do is check that new state that is being passed in as a value against the current state, and if they're different, then I'm going to change the current state to be the new state. So the reason I'm doing this is I don't want to be constantly changing the state for animation purposes that we'll get into a few videos down the road. So what I'm going to say here is if current state is not equal to new state, then I'm going to say current state is equal to new state. So then in here, when I'm checking my distance, is if current state is not equal to new state, then I'm going to say current state is equal to new state. So then in here, when I'm checking my distance, if we're in the movement or in the range where the log should be moving, I'm going to say change state, and I want to change state to enemy state dot move, or walk, I think I did. Yep. All right. Now, if I save this for a second, I want to add another requirement on here. So if our distance is what it's supposed to be, we're moving forward. But I also don't want the log to move forward if it's in that stagger state. So if we're in the right distance, and if we're in either the idle or the walk state, we're going to move forward. So I'm just going to add another if statement in here. I could add another and, but it's fine to do it this way. So I'm going to say if current state is equal to EnemyState.idle, or current state is equal to EnemyState.walk. Because I don't want it to move towards the player if it's in the attack or in the stagger state. Because I want it to actually be staggered. I don't want it to be moving through that. Okay, cool. Walk. Because I don't want it to move towards the player if it's in the attack or in the stagger state. Because I want it to actually be staggered. I don't want it to be moving through that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to save this. Let's go into Unity here and let's see if I broke it. First I want to make sure that I have my log selected here so that we can keep an eye on its current state over here on the right. Its current state is going to be idle by default, and if we move into its walk range, it should start walking. So into its walk range here, so it's in walk, and now when I hit it, it went from staggered to, oh, okay. So what I want to do actually here is I want to make sure not just that it's in those two states, but that it's not in the stagger state. So logically, those two arguments aren't equivalent. Okay, so I'm going to say another and statement here. So and current state is not equal to EnemyState dot, not idle, stagger. Okay, let's check that. If I'm making an error here, it seems like that's not what I did in my practice version of this, but we'll see. So, okay, walk over. Okay, so we went from stagger to idle that time. All right, I'm gonna reset the walk radius, or the attack radius, and see if that changes the behavior a little bit here. Okay, so I'm gonna move. Okay, it's just that I have my stagger set really low, but otherwise it's doing pretty much what it's supposed to do. All right, cool. So there we go. We have a pretty simple state machine that we've added, and this functionality can now be transferred to all of the enemies due to the principle of inheritance. The next thing we're going to cover is how to have these hurt boxes so that my player can't just walk up on our enemy here just like this. And it's also, the hurt boxes are also going to help not just push the enemy around. I know that's probably bugging some of you right now, but we'll get to that. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the description down below. You can follow me on Twitter, find out when I post a new video. You can join my Discord where I'm chatting pretty much every day. And yeah, have yourselves a wonderful day.
Bueno. Hasta luego.